Selected parts from the book One Life is Not Enough, Part 43. In 2003, the Americans invaded Iraq, bypassing the Security Council. A secular, socialist, non aligned country was destroyed. The excuse for the invasion was that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction hidden away, but no such weapons were found. The NDA government seriously considered sending Indian troops to Iraq. The Congress vigorously opposed doing so unless Indian troops were to function under the UN. The troops were finally not sent. There were debates in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha regarding India's stand on the invasion, and a joint resolution of both houses was passed reflecting the view of Parliament on the war, which was critical. I spoke in the Rajya Sabha deploring the invasion of Iraq by the USA and their moth-eaten coalition. In the 2004 Lok Sabha elections, the NDA lost and the Congress, along with several other parties, formed the United Progressive Alliance UPA to stake claim to the majority and form the government. Everyone expected Sonia Gandhi to become the Prime Minister. When the anticipated announcement was not made, rumors started doing the rounds and television channels started announcing that Sonia was not becoming Prime Minister. Sonia choosing Manmohan as Prime Minister did not go down well with the senior Congress leaders. Most members of the Congress Working Committee were senior to him. This was a bitter pill to swallow. The members were also resentful of having been kept in the dark. Our next big problem was to get the UPA partners to accept Sonia's decision. Senior CWC members were deputed to meet the alliance leaders to plead with them to accept what Sonia had decided. ML Fotedar and I were asked to meet VP Singh, Lalu Prasad Yadav, and Ram Vilas Paswan. Lalu and Paswan were both furious. Lalu gave us a tongue lashing in chaste Bihari, demanding to know why he had not been consulted and why he had had to hear the news on the television. Ram Vilas Paswan delivered the same message in less colorful language. It was a colossal mess, and I found my diplomatic skills being stretched to breaking point. Sonia Gandhi called a meeting of the alliance partners at 10 Janpath the same afternoon. The heavyweights arrived fuming. Harikrishna Singh Surjit, M. Karunanidhi, A.B. Bardhan, Sharad Pawar, Lalu Prasad Yadav, Ram Vilas Paswan, Farooq Abdullah, and E. Ahmed, among others. They had, in good faith, elected Sonia Gandhi as UPA chairman, not Manmohan Singh. Why had they been kept in the dark? It took more than an hour to bring them around. Sonia was exhausted by the end of it, but her inner strength pulled her through. On May 19, Sonia, Manmohan, and I informally discussed names for the posts of Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister and National Security Advisor NSA. Manmohan's choice for Principal Secretary was T.K.A. Nair, whom he knew well. Manmohan asked my advice on the appointment of the NSA. I told him I was not in favor of the post. After all, we had done without one for 5 decades, and the post had been created only in 1999 at the behest of Brajesh Mishra. Manmohan Singh eventually selected J.N. Dikshit as NSA. Sis Ram Ola told me that Harikrishna Singh Surjit had spoken to Manmohan and Sonia to put me in the Ministry of External Affairs. Surjit was worried that the American lobby would work against my getting Ministry of External Affairs. I had, over the years, acquired a reputation of being anti-American. I was opposed to several aspects of American foreign policy. The Manmohan Singh government was sworn in on 22nd May. I took my oath as External Affairs Minister. My wife and my son were present in the Ashoka Hall. For all 3 of us, it was a day never to be forgotten. In the evening, I met Manmohan Singh. He had fought hard for me to get the MEA, and till the last moment, the American lobby had allegedly tried to derail my appointment. Manmohan was apprehensive and mentioned how powerful the Americans were and that perhaps they could go to any extent to destabilize certain countries, including India. I appreciated Manmohan cautioning me, but reminded him that our foreign policy was made in New Delhi, not in Washington, while I would do my best to further strengthen Indo-US relations. Bowing before them was out of the question. In June 2004, I represented India at President Reagan's funeral in Washington. After the funeral, I had a meeting with Secretary of State Colin Powell, followed by a joint press conference. To a question about India sending troops to Iraq, I said that the Security Council was seized of the matter and that we would take a look at the outcome. The Press Trust of India correspondent filed a report saying that Natwar Singh had declared that India would send troops to Iraq. All hell broke loose in the parliament. I was being criticized by the very people from the NDA whom we had stopped from sending troops. On the midnight of 14-15 June 2005, Sonia Gandhi and I left for Moscow by special plane. She had been invited by Vladimir Yakunin, convener of the World Public Forum, to discuss the dialogue of civilizations. Soon after arrival, Sonia addressed the forum. In the afternoon, after the meeting, Sonia and I flew to the town of Vladimir by helicopter. The next morning, we flew to St. Petersburg, founded by Peter the Great, who called it his window to the west. This dazzling city is, along with Rome, one of the most sublime creations of man. Pushkin lived and died in the city. So did Dostoevsky and Anna Akhmatova. President Putin and Sonia Gandhi spent 3.5 hours in a meeting. Putin has an engaging personality, and it seems he has jettisoned his KGB past. His regard for Sonia was quite evident. Bilateral, regional, and global issues were discussed. On the expansion of the Security Council, Putin said that it was in the interest of Russia to see India as a permanent member of the Security Council. But the expansion of the Security Council would be a complicated matter, as no single country could become a permanent member. The talks were followed by lunch. Mr. Putin was accompanied by one of his senior advisers, who also acted as interpreter. Though Putin spoke English fluently, on formal occasions he spoke Russian. This was not a formal lunch by any means, but Putin stuck to Russian. After lunch, the president took leave of Sonia. Our program included a boat trip in the Gulf of Finland. When we arrived at the exclusive pier, we saw President Putin standing next to the boat. I whispered to Sonia that this was a very special gesture. He was treating her as a head of state. Not only that, the president announced that he would accompany us on the boat trip. I reminisced about the visit of Nikita Khrushchev to India in 1955. During his 2-day stay in Srinagar, he had announced that Kashmir was a part of India. This made Khrushchev very popular in India. I also put in a favorable word about Vladimir Yakunin, the Deputy Minister of Russian Railways, who had accompanied us to the town of Vladimir and had given us an interesting overview of the Russian political scene. The boat excursion took 45 minutes. At the Peterhof Pier, the president saw Yakunin. He walked up to him and said, "What fairy tales have you been telling the foreign minister?" Yakunin's jaw dropped. The president then said goodbye to Sonia and me. Later, Yakunin escorted us to the State Hermitage Museum. It had been destroyed during World War II, but rebuilt exactly as it had been before the war. I had heard much about it, yet I was not prepared for what I saw. Sonia is very knowledgeable about art. She pointed out to me some of the most famous paintings by Edgar Degas, Paul Gauguin, Leonardo da Vinci, Claude Monet, Henri Matisse, Raphael, Renoir, Michelangelo, Rembrandt, Van Gogh, and Titian. The only other place where one could see such treasures was the Louvre in Paris. Sonia, like her mother in law, walks very fast. I could not keep up with her, especially on that very warm day. Noticing this, Sonia told me to go back to the guest house as she wanted to spend some more time in the hermitage. After dinner, Yakunin insisted that we attend an opera. Neither Sonia nor I enjoyed it. It had been a long day and we were both tired. But Yakunin was a persistent host and pleaded that Sonia and I watch the White Nights Festival. As soon as we entered the Gulf, we saw a most wonderful sight. At midnight, it was bright as day. In all my globe trotting, I had not seen such a unique phenomenon. A few minutes later, Yakunin came and sat next to me. He asked, Mr. Minister, what did you say to the President about me? I replied, I told the President that you are a so and so. Please don't joke, he said. You must be a very powerful man because the President has just appointed me the Railway Minister of Russia. Thank you for listening.